I want to go over all the other games that are going to be happening this weekend because Massillon and Hoban is tonight on Thursday. That'll be a good one to kick off the weekend. And then we have 3 games Friday, 3 games Saturday. And I want to go through all of them just to make sure that we have our bases covered. So I want to start off in Division 6 because this is very similar or relevant to the game to the teams that we were covering this season. One of them being the Garaway Pirates, who had an amazing run to the state Final Four, first time in school history. They ended up losing to Kirtland, who is now 14-1 on the season, and they will play 13-2 Versailles on Friday at 10:30 a.m. I mean, Mitch, you talk about this being a program for Kirtland. This is their 12th state final appearance in 13 seasons. There's a reason last episode I answered Kirtland on that fact of the day you had, and I was incorrect, but the Hornets are a real program. They've won 6 state titles, lost in the final 5 times. They're 12-0 in regional championships in that span. That's probably my most impressive fact of all those. And, you know, this is a team that knows what to do, especially against Versailles. This is a rematch of the 2021 final in Division 5, which Versailles won 20-16. A loss that ended Kirtland's 55-game winning streak, was at the time was the longest winning streak in the country, not just Ohio, in the country. These are 2 teams that know what they're doing when they get here.
Yeah. You think so? I mean, they have 13 state championships between the 2 of them. This, I know that you have to it's a scheduling conflict, right? I hate a game starting at 10:30 in the morning, right? These kids are not used to playing at 10:30 in the morning since they were what, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And it's on a Friday. To me, Mitch, the divisions, yes, in terms of D1 through D7, we know the bigger ones up top, smaller ones at the bottom. That shouldn't play a factor in if you go to watch a football game at this level, because all these teams are so good and have something special about them, whether it's a player, whether it's a certain side of the ball. But Kirtland and Versailles, what's special about them is they're just a powerhouse. And when 2 powerhouses go at each other, much like we're assuming what tonight's going to be in the Division 2 state championship game, I had to make a promise for Friday that I have to help somebody move. If I'm done moving everything early, I'm hauling my butt to Tom Benson to watch this game, because I've experienced a game at Kirtland before. Okay. I worked a game when I was interning somewhere. That place, it's a small, tight-knit community. And I swear every Friday night there's a football game, Mitch, that entire town is shut down because they all go to the football game. These people love football. And Versailles obviously last upper hand when they played each other. I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. I'll take Kirtland. Kirtland 24-23.
24-23 is a close one. I mean, Kirtland's going in with a number of good talents, such as sophomore quarterback Jake Laverde, who he has thrown for over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this season. You also have Rocco Alfieri, who has ran for 25 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards and was a 3rd-team All-Ohio running back as a junior. And he's probably going to be All-Ohioan again this season. Also good on defense, 100 tackles, averaging 36.8 yards per punt as the team's punter. A number of other players in there. Will Beers, 19 total touchdowns, kind of a switchblade for this team. And I mean, it's really unbelievable right now. As far as Versailles goes, you know, they were a prominent team in the 90s, won 3 state titles, had that state record 54-game streak. They have been able to kind of get back into the mix. We mentioned before they beat Kirtland a few years ago in the final. So I'm looking out for a number of names in there, including senior quarterback Michael Osborne. He's 28 combined touchdowns this year, 8 interceptions. And then you have Joe Garrett, who's 26 touchdowns on the year, 23 on the ground. So this is going to be a game in which I think the 2 teams are going to excel very much in rushing. As far as my prediction for the game, I don't really know. I mean, it'll probably be a higher scoring game than but I'm going to say Versailles Oh, because that defense is just so good. They've only given up 8.7 points per game. I think it could be like 30 to 28, and it could be 30, maybe 31-28, and Versailles could be the one to take down Kirtland. But it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be close here in the second game of the slate. Division Three's game will be Toledo Central Catholic against Columbus Bishop Watterson Friday at 3 p.m. I mean, I don't really know who to take here, Mitch. Going through some of the stuff that we have been covering about Central Catholic all season. I mean, they had have a 30-game winning streak on the line Friday night. They won the Division Two state title a year ago. Now they could potentially win in Division Three. And this is again, this is another program that knows how to get the job done. They were able to beat Hoban last year in the Division Three state finals. And this is a lot of what is making it's a lot of what makes this team so prominent year in and year out.
Yeah, Mitch, I think a team that's 15-0, riding a 30-game winning streak, looking to repeat, obviously has shown they handle everything about their business. And I don't see a way in which Bishop Watterson is able to stop this TCC team. I just their record isn't what is staggering. It's the way they've won games. It's who they're playing. Their last loss, Mitch, came to a school named Lakewood St. Ed's. Last time I checked, they're pretty good.
We'll get to them in a bit. Yep.
We might be talking about them here. Yeah. They just keep going. And this is a team that for a number of years in 15, they were runner up, reached semifinals in 16, 17, 19. They finally break through. And now you see what's going on here. I just like Toledo Central Catholic, and I don't think it's close. 41-20.
41-20 Central Catholic.
Yep.
Okay, because I'm looking at this Watterson team. This is their sixth state final in which they are been competing with the last appearance coming in 2010 when they won their second title. They're still a solid team, and I think what's going to be a big part in the game is the defense. The defense has been very solid all season. They've been led by a Navy commit who was also a finalist for Mr. Football this year, and that will be announced later on this week. By the way, we mentioned on BigTenSportsOhio.com, Poochie Snyder, one of the finalists for Mr. Football. I think we mentioned in the last episode. If not, we are doing it now because that's huge for a Canton South player of all the players in the state. Anyway, Dominic Purcell is the name of the guy who from Columbus Bishop Watterson, who's going to Navy. The guy who has led this Eagles defense all season. They're giving up an average of around 9.5 points per game. Purcell has 38 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 5 interceptions, 2 of them for pick sixes. He has blocked 2 punts, and he has 4 touchdown receptions as a tight end. So he's not like probably the number one receiving target, but he's definitely a guy that can work his way in there. You got guys like AJ McKinnick as a senior quarterback who was on the all district first team with Purcell, who was a Central District's defensive player of the year. Gosh, I mean, this is. You know what? I'll say Central Catholic will probably still win, but I think Watterson's going to at least make it a competitive game because of that defense. If they can keep it Central close in the first half, then maybe something can happen there. But I'm still say Central will win, but who knows what will happen here on Friday. Next game, we have Springfield and Lakewood St. Ed's and the nightcapper on Friday in Division One. We'll get to St. Ed's in a second, Mitch. Let's talk about the Springfield team. Springfield was 5-5 heading into the start of these playoffs. They were the 12 seed in their respective region, and they beat Cincinnati Moeller 26-19 in overtime last week in Pequot to advance to Canton for the 3rd year in a row. Now, this is the 3rd straight matchup between them and St. Ed's in the championship. St. Ed's has had the advantage in the last 2. They won 23-13 2 years ago, 28-14 last year. I don't know if they're going to be able to break through this time. Part of me kind of hopes they do for their sake. It's going to be tough, but that defense does bring a lot to the table.
It's going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. This is nothing against Springfield. It's just there's nobody right now that's playing better football than St. Ed's. It's a fact. But at the same time, you look at this team was 3-5 after week 8. Okay. Do you think in the back of their heads at all they were thinking state championship run? Because I don't. And maybe someone will tell you they did, but odds are at some point they're probably like, okay, maybe not. They go and win weeks 9 and 10, they go 5-5. They get in, and all they've done is won 5 straight, or really 7 straight, but 5 since the season ended. They're 10-5 back here, 3rd straight year. You know what the saying is, Mitch? 3rd time's charm. But not this year.
No.
I think St. Ed's, unfortunately, is going to do it. I mean, Springfield, look, they're looking for their first state title still. 3 straight years are going to be at this exact moment on the same stage against the same team. But from what I remember, and if I am out of context here, it's possible, but I'm pretty certain I remember this. Springfield's coach had some comments after one of the games over the past 2 years against St. Ed's about public versus private schools. Well, here we go again, 3rd straight time. You wonder, does he have something else to say if Springfield doesn't come out on top? I'm intrigued by this game though, Mitch. I really am. I think Springfield right now is playing with house money, right? Like I mentioned, do you think anybody thought they'd be here after week 8 at 3-5? I don't think so. Do you think many people saw him beat Moeller last week? I don't think so.
Well, it's because his team has been here the last 2 years. I definitely think people thought they could still compete. The issue is when you get to that 3-5 mark, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we're put at a disadvantage where, especially in the early parts of the playoffs, you as the higher seed will be playing at other people's stadiums. Yeah. And the fact that you were able to take down not 1, but 2 home teams in the postseason is impressive once you get to neutral site play. I mean, this is what is it? This would be the first time an 11-5 team would win the state title since the playoffs expanded 3 years ago. The last Division I team to win a state title after a 5-5 start was Cincinnati St. Xavier back in 2016. So it's possible, but Springfield's got a lot on the table here tonight. They take on a St. Ed's team that is just. This is a team that has been here before. 3 straight potential 3rd straight state title. This would be their 5th under head coach Tom Lombardo. They have a number of Division I talent on their players on their team. Michigan soon to be Michigan right tackle Ben Roebuck, Devontae and Deontay Armstrong. They'll be going to Ohio State. Casey Bullock, a Davidson commit. Casey Bullock did not play, by the way. The starting quarterback did not play in 2 starts midway through the regular season, including their only loss of the season to Massillon. So he's kind of working with that hurt knee all season. Thomas Sanyi, who was playing in his absence, has been playing for most of the playoffs. Brandon White has emerged as a top running back for them. The offensive line has been doing some good things. White had a good game against Moeller in week 9, 262 rushing yards. He also had 217, 3 touchdowns last Friday in the Eagle State semifinal victory against Mansfield. So against Hilliard Bradley, in Mansfield. So I don't know, man. This it's going to be that offensive line that's going to have to protect the offensive role players for St. Ed's. I think St. Ed's will win too, but Springfield, they might do something here. They might just do something here. I hope they do for their sake.
Mitch, I just want to ask you though, how nice must it be to be the backup quarterback and realize you're going to go behind pretty much an NFL offensive line when you're playing quarterback?
I mean, it
has to be just, I'm just sitting here thinking like, how great would it be to be in the shotgun and realize you have 2 Ohio State commits, a Michigan commit. I do believe they have another highly touted recruit on that line that has not yet picked a school. It's like, people, you've seen the graphic on Twitter of the size of these players in the offensive line. I mean, that's such a luxury to have. And that is another reason why I think this gives Eds an advantage, because you have to win the line of scrimmage. And Mitch, so far this year, I don't think many teams have been able to even affect the line of scrimmage against St. Ed's other than Massillon.
So then we go to Saturday's first game, Maria Stein, Marion local against Doughton in that 10:30 slot that you love. You talk about dynasty in
this is
OHSAA football. This team, as you mentioned in the fact of the day last week, since 2000, what was the number again? Because my notes here are failing me.
They've won 13. They are looking tomorrow when they take the field. They'll be looking to capture their 14th 15th state title, I believe, since 2000.
They have won the last 47 games going into Saturday, and only 3 times this year have they scored below 30 points. 2 of them were, it's kind of like with Canton South. We mentioned on the show. I think I mentioned on the show last week. Now, 2 of them were close, 29-26 against Wapakoneta in the opening game, and then 14-13 against Versailles in week 6. Yeah, they're just blowing out opponents. They're just steamrolling through everybody. Although this isn't like the same team necessarily over the last couple of years. They've had some new guys here that have been able to step up. They're only allowing 6.4 points per game, and they've allowed 7 points in the postseason total. So Downton's got a lot on their plate going into this game. I mean, Downton is one of the only 2 teams without a state title appearance, game appearance before this week. So, I mean, they've been winning big games too. They beat Caldwell 55-7 in the state semifinals. So this is a team that knows how to score going right into the final. Their only loss of the season was to Kirtland by a single score back in week 1. So they've been rolling. They have some good offensive pieces. Their defense can put up some good performances. What do you got to do, though, to beat a team where it feels like these players for Maria Stein and probably their brothers and older brothers and probably their cousins and maybe even their fathers, who even knows at this point, have experience in this championship game?
I think this is really going to come down to, I see this game going one of 2 ways, Mitch, and I'll go with the first one for Dalton's sake. They're going to have to turn this into a track meet. If Dalton's offense, which you mentioned, they just scored 50, what was it, 55 points?
Yep.
Yeah, they can score, but the question is, what does the defenses they've been going up against look like compared to this team that's allowing 6 points per game? And so if Dalton can score, Mitch, this very well could be the most entertaining game of the weekend. I mean, look, when you take into account a team going for their 14th in 23 years versus a team here for the first time ever, the experience factor obviously is with Maria Stein. There's no way around that. Let's just call it for what it is. I mean, this coaching staff's been here every year. But for Dalton, and they call it the dream season. You never want to say it's over, right? You never want to say this team's automatically going to win. Like, I can't sit here and guarantee you St. Edwards is going to win. I can't sit here and say Massillon or Hoban or anybody else, but like, I can tell you, I think it's a good chance. I think Maria Stein is by far the more tested team, more experienced team, and they just have that leadership of knowing what it's like here. But sometimes, Mitch, not having any experience can be the best thing ever, because you know what? This is where you can say, this is it. This is our last game of the year. We can pull out all the stops here. We can run anything we want. It doesn't matter, because if we lose or we win, our season ends here, because this is the final game. And I think you might see Dalton kind of get tricky a little bit. I'm not saying onside kick to start the second half, but do you remember when the Saints did an onside kick to start the second half against the Colts and it caught everybody off guard in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I'm talking things like that. Like, is Maria Stein going to be ready for it? Who knows? Or have teams tried it against them? Probably not, because you know what you're going up against. So for Dalton, to me, this has been a phenomenal season, much like Canton South's run came to an end last week. But you have nothing to lose. You don't. And so sometimes that's the most dangerous team you can play at this point in the season. When we talked about all these other matchups so far, right? We talk about these teams that have records that are going for this and trying to do this and that, whatever. For Dalton, you're playing with house money, and they should have more fans there, I would assume, with this game being closer to Dalton than it is Maria Stein, Marion local. I do think Maria Stein wins this game. Earlier this week, I actually had a blowout. And I'm going to rescind that and tell you I don't have a score prediction right now, because I do think Dalton can. It's going to be, can Dalton's offense go up against Maria Stein defense? And this could be a game where it's whoever has the ball last. This could also be a game where if Maria Stein's defense is as good as it's advertised to be, that it could get away fast for Dalton.
I'm kind of with you. I think Maria Stein's going to win it, but I think it's going to be one of those scores that it's a wide margin, but it's not considered a traditional blowout. I'd say
yes,
28-10.
Okay,
something like
So
that.
originally I still have it here, but this is not my score prediction for the game. I'd like to go on record for that. I did have 42-24.
Hmm.
Okay, I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as that. I mean, you're talking that's 66 points combined right there. But I do think Marion Stein walks away a winner in this game. But I really like what Dalton. Like I said, they can play free and easy. They should play free and easy. When you see the team you're rolling up against, and when you realize it's the first time here, have fun with it. And sometimes those are the most dangerous teams.
Absolutely. So we have a pair of unbeatens in the Division 5 final coming at 3
Yeah.
p.m. Saturday. Perry against Liberty Center. Now, I don't know about Perry's history in the tournament, but I do know that Liberty Center was last here in 1998. They won the Division 5 title in 1997. They've won 8 regional titles over the last 2 seasons. They've done very well this year, especially on offense, averaging over 44 points per game. They've been last week they were able to break through with a 14-10 win over Germantown Valley View, so it wasn't a high scoring game. Then you look at the talent that they have. You have Colton and Trenton Cruz, the leading rushers for the Tigers, who run a wing T offense, so it's going to be very ground based. Colton Cruz, over 1,600 yards, 28 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 22 touchdowns. That's a dynamic I've noticed here since I've started going to the state finals for years now. It's very fascinating when you see a lot of like a lot of these teams we will see maybe run based, because it's very hard to find a consistent quarterback in any school, let alone like even these schools that like have these waves of talent.
Yeah.
It's always fascinating to see it when a very run-based team makes the state finals. Do you think to yourself, oh, you got to be balanced, or you got to have a great air attack when you get to the championships? Some of these teams, they get to the finals and they're just running, no mixing it up, no passing game, and it's like, wow, this is how you've done it.
Mitch, to your point, look back to last year in that game that Hoban lost to Toledo Central Catholic. Hoban was trailing. You know what they did to get back in the game? They gave the ball to Mr. Ohio, Lamar Spurley.
Yeah.
And he was a running back. And you know what he did? He got them all the way back into that game. It's at this point, you give the ball to your best players and you say, let's go. You have to stop our best. We have to stop your best. And so that's what is the best about this. And this is Perry's first appearance. I do believe they're
Okay.
looking for the
Yeah, I
first
thought
state
so.
title ever. To your point, this is the first time, or they're looking for their second state title since '97 when they won it.
Okay.
Liberty Center.
Mm.
This is this is crazy because I feel like I've said it twice already. This could be the game. Mitch, when you look at all these games across 7 divisions, right? We know the marquee matchup is the game tonight in Division 2. Okay. And if you didn't know, go on social media. CBS Sports has been already talking about this game as their game of the week across the country. In between Archbishop, Akron, Hoban, and Massillon, not Massillon, Massillon.
Yeah.
And
I was amazed they talked about the game in the first place. So it's
that too. But from what I have here in terms of what I'm predicting, this is actually gonna be the closest game right beside Kirtland and Versailles. This is another 1-point game I have. I have Perry getting their first ever state title, 21-20.
I think that'll be the case. I think they have an offense that can overcome what the Liberty Center defense has done this year. The Liberty Center defense is allowing 7 points per game. They have not allowed more than 14 points in any game this season. There is a guy that I'm very interested in seeing. There are actually 2 players. One of them is Jaden Studio, who's ran for over 13 yards this year. He's committed to Kent State to play football. That's good. And then senior Braden Richards. You want to talk about speed? This man is the Lightning McQueen of high school football players. This man won the Adidas National Championship in the decathlon this past spring in Greensboro. He was first place in 6 events. He was the only event he was second in was the long jump and the 100-meter dash. He is all Ohio in track, football, and basketball, and he's committed to Air Force to run track. That man can run. And if he runs around these Liberty Center defenders, they might have a tough time keeping up for an entire game. That could lead to Perry getting their first ever championship, which would be big. Shout out to Perry, by the way, because they are one of my most viral moments in my early days as a broadcaster. I did a basketball game. What was it? 2 years ago. It was a girls' basketball tournament game. It was them and Salem. I can't remember the girl's name, but she made about a 30-some footer for 3 off the backboard to win at the buzzer. And that was one of my most like viral calls. Like it got a bunch of traction on. So shout out to that school for giving me a chance to come and call your game.
The other thing I think that helps Perry in this game, Mitch, is their head coach, who's been here now for in his third year, 36.
Bob Guesswich, yep.
He was at Dublin Jerome. He has prior state championship game experience as the quarterbacks coach at Marion Local. Look at that tie. Another, we already talked about this, a team that's here. So in terms of a team making it for the first time, that's always, it's a new experience, but having somebody that's been there before, I think, is also another reason I kind of lean Perry. A coach that's been there, experienced it, knows what it takes. And obviously he knows what it takes and has experienced it. You don't just go to a school and start out 36-6 in your third year. This has been a tremendous run by Perry and their coach. How'd you say his last name?
Guesswich. Yeah, I'm assuming that's how you say it because I'm just basing it off of my first look at it. Coach Casey Moeller is in his 7th season and has a 76-14 record for Liberty Center. And finally, we have the Division 4 matchup. We saw him last week, the Tarblooders of Cleveland Glenville High School going up against Kettering Archbishop Alter. All I knew about Kettering Archbishop Alter before this week was as in terms of school, not just football team, was that they were the team that LeBron and St. V's beat in his senior year to win the national title. But St. V's won a basketball title a few years ago. They are looking for their 3rd state title in football. They beat Cincinnati, Wyoming last week 17-0, and they beat Steubenville 48-0. They've allowed 9 points in 5 playoff games, 3 of them shutouts. This defense can do some serious damage, including senior linebacker Henry Reifschneider, who has done some great things. He's a first team all Southwest District selection, had 138 tackles, 12 for loss this season, or at least entering the Steubenville round. He had 21 tackles in the regional semifinals against Clinton Massey, so the guy can move around well.
That's a team that's been in Canton quite a number of times, Clinton Massey, Mitch. That's not a little pushover game. And for them to win 21-3 and have, 21 tackles, that's absurd. That's a lot.
Meanwhile, on offense, junior quarterback Gavin Connor set the school record this season for career passing yards. Through the regional finals, he had 1,400 passing yards this season, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He can also run around a little bit, 502 rushing yards, 5 scores there. Noah Jones, the top running back for the team, over 1,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, had a 124-yard game recently. This offense can do some good things. You have Carter Sheets as one of the top receivers there. You also have what was the name? Russ. I'll look it up here in a second. But the point is, offense can go. They can do some good things. Now they're going up against this Glenville squad that looked tough against Canton South this past Friday. And I mentioned a lot of these run heavy teams that get to the state final. This is kind of one of them. Deshaunte Jones is serious. The man can run. The man can rush up the middle. The man can get around defenders with these juke moves that he can do. He's scored 26 touchdowns this year, 22 of them obviously on the ground, 1,500 rushing yards, 131 carries. Yeah, this is not only a rushing offense that can do some serious damage. I like what I see from the quarterback Rule Tomlinson, even though he's not like throwing for 40 times a game. He's a big kid. He's a good basketball star that can, be able to run for big plays and make big plays that can get some energy going for the Tarblooders. And of course, talk about some of these recruits that they have. Demarion Witten going to Ohio State, Bryce West, who I don't even know if he played in the game last week with an injury, but he's serious business too.
He's missed the last 2 games, and
yes.
It does look like he will be missing again. But does it really matter? Because Deshaunte Jones has certainly not made it noticeable, the drop off between the two at running back. Yeah. This team, Mitch, is so last year Cleveland Glenville, led by legendary coach Ted Ginn Sr. They finally got that first state championship, which was the first for the greater Cleveland schools up there. This team has a couple losses, but you look at their schedule, Mitch. They played IMG Academy this year. They played Akron Hoban. They lost both those games, but at the same time, you pick up a loss in your record, but you lost to damn good football teams. I mean, IMG Academy, that's one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And I give major props to teams like this because when you return a majority of those guys, you have two options. Let them go, do their own thing, see if they get back there, or you test them. And Ted Ginn Sr. tested this team, and they're right back here again. And I really do believe that they are back here again, and they're going to win it again. And so the senior class that missed their first season in 2020 is now going to potentially end their career with back-to-back state championships.
I got confused when I saw that first sentence. I'm like, wait a minute, they already won last year. They were the first Cleveland Metropolitan School District's team to win a state football championship in the postseason era of the OHSAA. But yeah, they'll be able to kind of finish their careers out on a high note potentially. A lot of those guys are going off once again to big programs. I mean, we talked about West, talked about Witten. Yeah, they'll be without West for the final game. So yeah, I mean, Jones is not committed, by the way. So, but he's got like 13 offers, including like Kentucky and Army and Ohio and a whole bunch of other teams. The big thing is the defense too, because they had 7 sacks and 12 tackles for loss in the regular season. They didn't get to Snyder as much as I thought they would in terms of sacks last week, but they did have enough pressure on there to where Snyder didn't look as comfortable as he had throughout the season. So if they can apply pressure to a junior quarterback for Alter, then that could be something interesting. And I forgot to mention, of course, one of my favorite tidbits. This is not my fact of the, well, it's my fact of the day. It doesn't have to be yours. Deshaunte Jones, the running back for the Tarblooders, the nephew of former Ohio State quarterback Cardale Jones. So there's a lot of connections there.